All right. I am going to once again try to record this without now some giant webcams getting really big in the middle, or a very loud hissing noise, or vampires. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So we will give it a go, walking through the practical portion of the midterm working in Lightroom. So first off, let's go ahead and fire up Adobe Lightroom Classic. My version's a little older. All the functionality should be the same. And I'm assuming that you have already gone ahead and shot all of the 8 images that you need for this. Goodness gracious, excuse me. So first off, I'm going to make a new catalog, and I'm going to name it according to our little rubric here, which is 2025. Your last name, PH152. Midterm review. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Remember that it is really important to save it somewhere where you know where you put it. So desktop is handy. If you can do it to your external hard drive, also great. My desktop, I know, is not connected to iCloud Drive or anything, so I'm just going to go ahead and create this there. Lightroom closes, Lightroom reopens, and beautiful. So here we have our fancy, exciting Lightroom catalog. I can check the title. Yes, it's the right title. I'm going to go ahead and pop my SD card in there. And once it's done that, I'm going to quit out of any programs I can to help my poor little laptop. Once I have my SD card plugged in, I'm going to go ahead and hit import. Pops up, gives me some nonsense I don't care about. And we see I have a whole bunch of images on my SD card because I have not been practicing good SD card hygiene and formatting it after I download it. So I will only download the subset of these that is the stuff that I shot for the midterm review. So here we are over here where stuff is coming from. I'm going to copy it as a DNG. I think that makes sense. And then importantly, I need to figure out where it's going to. Now, right now it's going to pictures. That is wrong. I'm going to go here to other destination, right? So I clicked on that, other destination. And I'm going to look for that folder that I just made my Lightroom catalog in. I know that it's on the desktop because that's where I put it. There it is right there. Double click on that. And now in this folder, right? So I'm here in this midterm review folder. I can see my Lightroom catalog right there. I'm going to make a new folder called that same name dash raw. Hit create. There we go. There's nothing in it. If I click up here, I can see, yes, it's there inside of this folder next to my Lightroom catalog. Nothing inside of it yet. Go ahead and hit choose. And then I'll look right here just to verify that that's where all of my stuff is going in that raw catalog, raw folder. So then coming down here, right, file handling, standard previews, don't import suspected duplicates. Those are both things where I'm not going to have any way of knowing if you select them or not for the midterm, but they're a good practice for you with your own catalog. File renaming. I want to rename these files because otherwise they're all going to have these silly meaningless names like DSC07116. So rename files. You'll see we have a template right here for midterm review naming. That actually is great. I created it during, I don't know, like the midterm review we did just a few minutes ago. If you don't have that, I'm going to click on those templates, right? So click on the template, edit, and then you can go in here and make a template of your choosing. The exam will tell you how to name stuff for the export. For the import, you need to know that it should be the same name as your Lightroom catalog, right? So in this case, 2025, Farwell, PH152, midterm review, right? Then a dash, and then a sequence number. If you can't find a sequence number, if it says total number, click on that. You should be able to go here to sequence number. 4 zeros, 3 zeros, either one will work. Look up here, I have now screwed up and given me two numbers, total and sequence. Just click over here and backspace that out. So now it is that text, a dash, and a 4-digit sequence number. Once you have that to your liking, you can go here and save those current settings as a new preset and call it midterm review naming or whatever you would like. I already have one named that, so I'm just going to update it and hit done. So now when I go over here to file renaming, I see the template selected as midterm review naming, and I look down here, there is a sample telling me what that will look like. It's a little abbreviated, which is a little frustrating, but start number 1, right? There's no other images in here. We want it to start with 1. Apply during import. So we want to, per this piece of paper, include some copyright metadata. Now we can do that once we've already brought the images in, but I think it's simpler to do it during the import process. So to do that, here under Apply During Import, come down here to Metadata. Now I have 2025 copyright data all set up. If you didn't have that, you can go down here to New, and you can make a new preset with that name, or with whatever name you want, 2025 Brad's copyright metadata. And then what we're looking for is down here, IPTC copyright. So parenthesis C, parenthesis 2025, your name, copyright status copyrighted, rights usage terms, all rights reserved. Make sure all these things are checked. Make sure that's checked. If you uncheck it, it's not going to be written in this template. And then creator, right? You don't need to put anything beyond your name, but I think having your name in there is a good idea. Later on, when you are dealing with editors and whatever all the time, you'll probably put all of this information in there. But for the moment, I don't think you really need it. So you can go ahead with that and hit create. And now we see here in metadata, there's Brad's 2025 copyright metadata. Last thing on here, if I go down here to destination, into subfolder, I do not want that checked. And, oops, jumped up here. So into subfolder, don't want that checked. And then organize, I just want to organize it into one folder. I do not want it by date. Putting by date, super messy. Just don't do it. It's all terrible. Okay, so there we go. So just to review that, where is it coming from? Our SD card. What's happening to it? Copy as DNG. Where is it going? Super important. Into a raw folder that we just made that is inside of the same folder with our Lightroom catalog. Right? Again, it's one of the reasons why you got to know where you put your Lightroom catalog. And I've got my renaming, looks good. Copyright metadata looks good. Just like copyright metadata, you can rename after you bring them in. But again, it is easier to do it here. Now, the last thing I need to do is select the images that I want to bring in. If I hit import right now, I'm going to bring in 11 bajillion images. Nobody wants that. So uncheck all, and then I'm going to click the first one I want, hold down shift, click the last one I want, and then check all those, right? So these are all the ones that I just shot for the midterm review, and then come down here and hit import. So it's going to sit here and import for a while, right? You can see that progress bar slowly moving across the top of the screen. While this is happening, I'll show you two things. One, which is where we would put in that copyright metadata if we did not already have it. So again, I'm in the library tab, right? You can hit G for grid to make sure you're here in this library. And then over here is metadata on the right. Twiddle it open if it's not already there. Something that I spaced out on in class. By default, the amount of metadata is extremely limited, right? There is a little copyright thing and a creator thing. But if I click on this right here, go down to EXIF and IPTC, and that's going to give us this much more in-depth metadata where we can enter our contact, enter our copyright info. So that's where you would go to enter that. If you enter it for one image, so if I make my creator name Brad Farwell instead of just Brad on this first Farwell, on this first one, so with that first one that I entered, right, you see Brad Farwell. I apologize, the fan is spinning up again. This lovely, the hiss of the sea. I can select all with that first one selected and come down here to sync. And this is really similar to the way that we could sync our white balance, but instead of sync settings, it's just sync here in the library tab. Make sure that the things I want to synchronize are checked, and then sync those. And now all of the images say Brad Farwell instead of simply Brad. So that's good. The other thing that I was going to show you is if you need to rename images. And same thing, select all, and then you're going to go up to the library menu, come down here to rename photos, and then just like in the import dialog box, you can select or edit a template and rename them within Lightroom. Do not rename them outside of Lightroom. The stuff in your raw folder, if you rename it outside of Lightroom, Lightroom will not know that that happened and just think the file is missing. Okay, so there we are. All these things are in. Our metadata is correct. Our naming is correct. If you can't tell the names up here, you can go to View, View Options, excuse me, and make sure you're on expanded cells with file name and nothing else in the top. So this is compact, not useful, expanded, with the file name, much more useful. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and look at what we do next in our midterm instructions. I'm going to pause this for just a moment while it stops making such a loud hissing noise, and we will continue. Okay, we got the hissing noise under control a little bit. So we've brought the files in, the naming is right, the metadata is right. Looking at our handy dandy sheet, what do we got to do next? Let's make sure the copyright info is in the yes, that's great. Give the images that you think are the best a ranking of 3 stars, right? So there were the 8 images that we had to shoot: shallow depth of field, deep depth of field, motion blur, thing like frozen, wrong white balance, the 3 exposure things. And I'm going to find my favorite for each, and I'm going to give it a rating of 3 stars. So let's say that's my favorite shallow depth of field, favorite deep depth of field, favorite moving thing, favorite midair thing, favorite wrong white balance, and my 3 favorite exposure pictures. Great. Those are all there. All have 3 stars. Everything is awesome. Next up, and again, I give them 3 stars by simply hitting 3 on the keyboard. If you want to get rid of stars, you hit 0. 1 star is 1, 2 stars is 2, 3 stars is 3, up to 5 stars. Next up, give one picture a color label, right? So in the actual midterm, I may tell you what color. Here I am just going to say give it a color label, so I'm going to give this one a yellow label by hitting the number 7 on the keyboard. So 1 through 5 are stars, 6, 7, 8, 9 are colors, and 0 gets rid of a star. To get rid of a color, you just hit the same thing again. Another way that you can do this, FYI, is if you hit T as in toolbar, you'll get this little bar across the bottom. If I come down here, I can click on this arrow and make sure that it includes color label, and that will then give me this little set of colors, and I could select an image and give it a color label or remove a color label by clicking down here. Again, I don't really use color labels that often. They are useful to many people, just not part of my workflow. So I now have, again, as I look at my handy dandy instructions, given it a color label, got those good 8 shots with 3 stars. Now it says put those 8 in a collection called 8 Final Midterm Images. To do that, I'm just going to come over here to Collections, click on the plus button, Create Collection, and 8 Final Midterm Images. I don't need to include selected photos because I've only selected 1 photo and I don't honestly even know what it is. So I'm just going to hit Create. And now to add these 8 images to that collection, I'm going to hold down Command while I click on them. So Command will allow me to select multiple non-in-a-row pictures. Once I have them all selected, or I could do it one at a time, I will grab them by the picture part, not the border. If you grab by the border, it deselects everything. By the picture part and drag them into that collection. Right, so now if I look down here, Final Collection, there's 8 images in there. If I click on it, it shows me just those 8 starred images, one of which has a color label. If I go back to all photographs, there's everything again, but I'm going to go hang out in this. If you accidentally add too many photos, if I accidentally added this one to that collection, in the collection, all you need to do is click on a photo and hit delete on the keyboard, and that will remove it from the collection. It's not taking it off your computer. If it was going to do that, it would pop up a warning thing saying, are you sure you want to do this? That's how you get extra things out of your collection if you do not need them. So the next step that we have on here is give just these 8 images a keyword. So I'm going to say Command A to select all, and then staying here in the Library tab, I'm going to come up here to Keywording. And I have all of them selected, so any keyword I enter is going to apply to all the images. So I'm going to go ahead and type lit in that keyword field, hit return, and now all of these images, if I click on it, lit comes up as the keyword. You can have lots of keywords, like whatever, people use them. Okay, so we've now done everything in Lightroom that I've asked you to do. I could ask you to do other stuff on the midterm, I could ask you to edit something. I could ask you to crop or white balance or I don't know what. But for this, we have everything done. And now we want to export our files per our sheet as JPEGs that will make a decent print and fit on 13 by 19 inch paper with a 1-inch margin on all sides. So to do that, I've got all my images here. Command A to select all. I'm in the Library tab. I'm going to come down here to Export. So export 8 files. Export location. Where are they going to go, right? Well, they're going to go to a specific folder because I don't even know what the other option would be. And then what is that folder? I'm going to hit Choose. And what we want, I'm going to go back to my desktop. There's my midterm review folder. What we want is to put a folder in the same folder right next to the raw folder that is called name of our catalog and everything else dash export or edit or whatever other name makes sense to you. So now if I go, let's say if I went to Finder and looked on my desktop, there's my midterm review catalog. When I open it up, there's a bunch of Lightroom files and raw folder with a bunch of raw files and an export folder with nothing in it yet. So I'm back here in Lightroom. I'm going to say yes, I choose that export folder, right? Just to review, how did we get there? We hit export, specific folder, then we go here to choose desktop. There's my midterm review folder. Open it up, and then I hit new folder to make this export folder. So it's already there. Double click on it. Now I'm looking inside of it where there is nothing. Alright, so there we go. Going into the export folder. That's awesome. File renaming. So usually when you export stuff, there is some way that I want you to rename them. This is no different. So we check rename. And then I've already made here a template for how I'm asking you to do them in the midterm review. If that was not to your liking, you could always hit edit. I'm sure that the actual midterm will have a slightly different name. But there's my template editor, Firewall Broad 152 midterm review dash 3-digit sequence. Start number 1, that's great. File settings, right? This is important. Check what I asked you for. Here I'm asking you for JPEGs. I'm asking you to make a JPEG file that is good for a print, so my quality should be high. I have it at 100. That's great. Color space, I may specify a particular color space, right? sRGB is one option. Adobe RGB 1998 is an option. ProPhoto is an option. Then 2 more things. 1, image sizing, right? We want to resize to fit, and we want to remember that on this piece of paper, it said we're going on a 13 by 19 inch piece of paper for the print, and that we want a 1-inch margin all the way around. So 13 by 19, 1-inch margin all the way around, so that 13-inch width, inch on one side, inch on the other, 13 minus 2, 11, right? That 19-inch height, inch on the top, inch on the bottom, subtract those out from 19, you get 17. So the total space that I have to export this is 11 inches wide and 17 inches high. Except that a bunch of our images, like some of them are vertical, some of them are horizontal. So I don't want to say 11 inches wide and 17 inches high, right? Because my things are sometimes tall verticals and sometimes wide horizontals. So I want it to be set to dimensions. Very important. So resize to fit dimensions, 11 inches by 17 inches. Make sure it's inches. And that will accommodate the fact they're sometimes vertical, sometimes horizontal. Last thing on here, resolution. So I say to make a good quality print. So that means resolution somewhere between 240 and 360. Metadata, include all metadata. Always a good practice. And then we can hit export. So before I hit that export button, just to review, export to specific folder. What is that folder? It is my export folder that is in with my Lightroom catalog next to my raw folder has that same name, 2025, last name, PH152, midterm review, and then at the end, dash export or edit or whatever. Just something that will indicate this is where our files are going. We're renaming them per the spec on the sheet. We are saving them to a file type per the spec on the sheet. Here are JPEGs, 100% sRGB. We're resizing them to fit a particular dimension with or without a margin. And because it's a print, my resolution is between 240 and 360. All metadata, everything's awesome. Let's go ahead and hit export. So that's going to go ahead and export. You'll see this little progress bar in the upper left. That's going to sort of chonk along. And once we get to the end, we will be able to close this and then turn in this whole folder. It is really important that you wait until this is done and then you close Lightroom before you upload it. If you don't do that, I may not get all of the stuff you just worked so hard on. So that exporting is still going. Almost there. Excellent. All right, so that's done. I'm going to hit Command Q to quit. It asks me if I'm sure. Certainly am. I'm going to go to my desktop. There is my lovely midterm review folder. If I open it up, Lightroom files, export files, those are great. Raw files, those are great. Nothing seems crazy or wrong or too big or too small. So now what I would do is I would open up Google Drive, and I'm going to take that whole folder and drag it over, right? So this whole folder has everything in it, right? Has Lightroom file, has the raw files, has the export files, whole kit and caboodle. That's what you're going to turn in. When you do that, make sure that I take a look, right? Because otherwise you could do it wrong and you would be sad. So there you go. Hope that was helpful. Hope that I managed to do this without me jumping up into a giant screen covering thing, which was happening last time I recorded it, and hopefully the soft and relaxing whir of my laptop's fan as it struggles to keep up with all of this is not too distracting. All right, good luck.